When Dumbledore drinks the potion that's protecting the Locket Horcrux, also known as the Drink of Despair, what a lovely name. When Dumbledore drinks that, he is tortured. He seems to be in horrible pain, both physically and mentally, and he apparently relives some of the darkest and most awful moments of his life. Maybe the name is apt, after all. So I wanted to investigate what the potion was, where it came from, and how on earth Voldemort managed to create it. So let's jump in. So before we can really speculate on how the potion was made, we need to figure out exactly what it was. And to figure out what it was, we need to take a look at what it does. In The Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore assesses the only way to get to the Locket Horcrux is to drink the potion that it sits in. And when he begins to drink the potion, Dumbledore experiences pain and discomfort immediately. He grips the basin, he begins to fall, he breathes heavily, and his voice starts to strain, which is only the beginning. Dumbledore continues to drink, and it seems as though the physical pain goes, but emotional pain comes in its place. He begs Harry to let him stop, he moans, he screams, and then he appears to relive something awful. "It's all my fault, it's all my fault," he sobs. "Please, make it stop, I know I did wrong. Oh, please, make it stop, and I'll never again." Now, it's quite enigmatic, and we don't get any specifics in that passage of what Dumbledore is really seeing or experiencing, but the most obvious explanation would be that Dumbledore is reliving the death of his sister Ariana. He carried the guilt of that situation for over a century, and the potion made him relive it. So we know that Dumbledore's experience of drinking the potion was truly awful, and we get a second experience of drinking the potion, relived in the Deathly Hallows. In Creature's Tale, the house elf reveals that he himself had to drink the potion years earlier, and he said it caused him to see terrible things. So it's not just something specific to Dumbledore's experience with the potion, that's what it does. It seems to make people see and experience terrible things, and in Dumbledore's case, make him relive the most awful thing that's ever happened to him. And therein lies the key to what the potion might be. So Dumbledore reliving the death of his younger sister is a huge clue about what the Horcrux Potion is. Because we have another situation very similar to this in an earlier book. The potion makes Dumbledore relive past trauma, reliving the moment his sister died, and in The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry relives the death of his mother. When the Dementors get close to Harry, they have an effect on him that causes him to hear his mother screaming. He hears the exchange between his mother and Voldemort just moments before she's killed. The Dementors cause Harry to relive the most awful thing he's ever been through, which is exactly the same as what the potion does to Dumbledore. And so it stands to reason the potion itself could have come from Dementors in some way. It could be Dementor blood, maybe even a potion reduced from Dementor flesh, or it could be the very thing that turns a Dementor into whatever the hell a Dementor actually is. Now, Creature's Tale actually gives us more evidence to back this up as well. Creature says his insides burned when he drank the potion, and on the surface that might seem like the opposite of the effect of a Dementor, because Dementors make things cold, and burning is the opposite of cold, right? Well, not exactly. When you get to the extremes of either heat or cold, your body sort of reacts in a very similar way. The overstimulation from temperature, whether extreme heat or extreme cold, to your body, to your cells, to your nerves, is very, very similar. In fact, if something cold enough comes into contact with your body, it can literally cause what's known as an ice burn. Much like a heat burn, it can cause pain and numbness from overstimulating the cells in your body, and even cause blistering. And so if extreme cold and extreme heat can cause very similar burning sensations, well, that could be what Creature is talking about when he talks about the burning from when he drank the potion. It could very easily be a high intensity or concentrated version of the cold feeling brought on by Dementors. So if we can comfortably say the Drink of Despair was made from the flesh or the blood of Dementors, the question remains, how did Voldemort create it? Voldemort prided himself on his knowledge of magic. In The Half-Blood Prince, he even boasts to Dumbledore that he's performed experiments allowing him to push and understand certain types of magic further than anybody else. Now, if we push past the books and dive deep into the lore of Harry Potter, the extended stuff that's been out there in other books and on Pottermore, deep in the lore of the Harry Potter universe, we have a character called Acrisdis. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but basically he was the creator of the Dementors. Supposedly he ran horrific magical experiments out of Azkaban before it was a prison. Now before Voldemort came back to apply for the Defense Against the Dark Arts teaching position that he didn't even really want, Voldemort spent a lot of time traveling, doing research, experimenting, diving deep into magic, attempting to increase his powers and to grow his following. And considering the type of magic he was enticed by, I wouldn't be surprised if that journey and that research took him down a path that led him to Acrisdis and to the Dementors. I wouldn't be surprised if Voldemort's own experiments revolved around trying to create his own Dementors or Dementor-like creatures. He went out and created an army of Inferi after all. And there's evidence to suggest this as well, because Voldemort has a deep understanding of Dementors in the Harry Potter series, unlike what we see from anybody else. You see, at the end of the Goblet of Fire, Dumbledore implores Fudge after Voldemort's return to remove the Dementors from Azkaban. See, Dumbledore is certain Voldemort will take control of the Dementors. He says Voldemort can offer them much more scope for their powers and pleasures than you can. And he's right, because by the beginning of the Half-Blood Prince, the Dementors are working for Voldemort. They are a part of his army, and considering Dementors are creatures that don't really communicate, the fact they were pried away by Voldemort so easily, and not just left to their own devices either, he was able to weaponize them and organize them like troops and soldiers. Voldemort clearly understands these creatures better than the Ministry, and that understanding suggests that Voldemort put a lot of time, energy, and research into the Dementors, and from that, he may well have discovered how to weaponize parts of their being, how to take some of the worst parts of them and maybe brew it into a potion. A potion made from the soul-sucking creatures, ironically, that he'd use to protect the part of his soul contained within the Horcrux. And if you liked this theory about the Drink of Despair, then you'll probably like my breakdown of the unforgivable curses, in which I try and figure out who created them and where they came from. It's a really fun theory, so I recommend you check that video out next.